Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. This is one of they're making spin-off movies of the SpongeBob characters. They've made like the Patrick Show, and every person who's ever been in the main cast of SpongeBob, every character who's not SpongeBob is getting their own spin-off type thing, including movies. Since we have the Patrick Show, now we have Sandy Cheeks' movie, and there's a Plankton movie coming out next year on Netflix, and there's another SpongeBob theatrical movie. So if this is either SpongeBob movie 4 or Sandy Cheeks 1, not exactly sure. Whatever. I'm confused by the reception of this film in a few ways. I put this on for my kids, and they were laughing a lot at the beginning when the Bikini Bottom is taken away and everything like that, and they had a good time with it. It was fun watching it with kids, actually, because they were laughing a lot at the beginning when the Bikini Bottom is taken away and everything like that, and they had a good time with it. It was fun watching it with kids, actually, because they laughed and had a good time. We had Chinese food that night. They're really into it. It was a wonderful experience with me and the kids watching the movie. And I've not done that with the SpongeBob movies before. I think this is the first one we've all watched together right when it came out. I think we watched the third one, me and my daughter. But this was like everybody together. It was nice. So part of it, I do like to say like my context sometimes if I see it, and like I know I'm having a good time, and I understand maybe everyone else is watching by themselves, or like you're watching on Netflix and in the dark while you're crying. I don't know what you do. Sorry, that's fucked up. No, sorry, in the daylight outside in the park, or I don't know how you watch it. Tell me how you watched it. If you watched it in the dark crying by yourself. I don't know why I didn't play this bit. Okay, but here's the thing. I like SpongeBob the cartoon. I've liked SpongeBob the cartoon for a very long time. I've liked it long enough that I had a VHS tape in EP full of SpongeBob episodes. The tape was labeled SpongeBob. I don't know why I needed to say that. Anyway, I really liked that tape. I watched it a lot. It was wonderful because, hey, I had a Ren and Stimpy tape. I had a Cow and Chicken tape. Might as well have a SpongeBob tape. And I liked SpongeBob. I've liked it a long time. I watched the cartoon with my kids. I do early seasons, don't worry. I'm like, no, we're starting at season 1, kids. Sorry. I've always liked SpongeBob. I'm not that big of a fan of the movies. I like the first movie alright. I should probably have reviewed it at some point. I even like the soundtrack. I was a big fan of the soundtrack. However, the thing with this is I don't have high hopes with these. Starting with Sponge Out of Water, the other one, Sponge in Vegas, Viva La Sponge Vegas, that one, and then there's Finding Gary, whatever. And then there's this one. I don't have high hopes for these. I don't understand why SpongeBob is CG. He's traditionally a 2D character who has a lot of material in 2D. I think most kids recognize him in 2D. I think I'll say the CG thing looks ugly as crap. Sure, it worked better in the last two, but does it look as good as it does in 2D? No. Was it specifically designed? Does the show work a lot better? All the characters in 2D? Yeah, it's just like, come on. I don't think traditional is always better than CG. I mean, I sort of do. I don't think these characters, I just don't like, why isn't it not true? I never understood that. I just don't have a great love for the sequels. So like my expectations were basically like, my kids are going to laugh at this. I'll probably be okay with it. And that's sort of where I came to it with. I like SpongeBob. I never think any of the movies have come anywhere close to any, like, even like the mid shows of the early seasons. Like, I just don't feel like it ever gets to that. So maybe my expectations are lower, and maybe I don't give a fuck about these movies, which is probably the best way to explain it. But I just never expected much interesting, and I think this sort of like meets me halfway, where like it's just a ton of gags. Like I've said before, I think SpongeBob is what SpongeBob is for this current generation of kids, is basically interchangeable with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and all that, and you know, the newer Mickey Mouse and stuff like that. He's just another character. They have no don't designate between the eras like we do. He's just a funny guy, and this is a funny kids movie, and it succeeded in doing the thing that they wanted it to do, even if we're not super into it. Saving Bikini Bottom is supposedly a Sandy Cheeks movie. It's more of a Sandy Cheeks movie, and SpongeBob is there the whole time, so it's not really much of a spin-off or anything. It's not like an MCU movie where, like, you know, the SpongeBob has a cameo. SpongeBob's in like every scene for the whole movie. But Bikini Bottom is taken away to Galveston, Texas, to this it's like clawed up, everything in it except for SpongeBob and Sandy, and they have to go find this place because that's the lab she has been researching and stuff for, which that part I actually thought was kind of an interesting twist there, what they did with what she's researching and the science lab she works for that we've heard about all this time. I thought was like, okay, that's actually like, you're using some lore there. It's kind of an interesting twist there. And they're taken away, and Wanda Sykes and her assistants are going to try to make these fish into cuddly creatures because she always wanted to cuddle a fish for some reason. And Sandy and SpongeBob have to get them back and use her family of squirrels, and she's are going to use her family of squirrels, and you find that she's a flying squirrel, and they're circus squirrels, and are going to get back everyone from Bikini Bottom, I guess, and bring them back to the sea. This does combine a lot of CG and real life stuff, which I wish people would stop doing, because it's amazing to me that we try to do animation with live action and like none of it ever looks very good anymore. Like, and this movie isn't directed and planned out very well. It's done by, and this actually threw me. I actually had to, while the kids were laughing at this thing, I just wanted to see who directed it, and I was so lost at how this person was directing a SpongeBob movie, it like threw me. I had to rewatch the opening. It is funny, my kids were right, and I felt stupid for like going on my phone on a movie in front of my kids. So, but Lisa Johnson, who's done things like The Last of Us and like is a TV director and has done a lot of really dramatic stuff. Supposedly Mr. Coates said that it was because what she did with What We Do in the Shadows, and she has done comedy stuff. Comedy stuff is one thing, and I get the idea of it, but I sort of wish they had gotten someone who is maybe more silly, because all the live action stuff looks like it was shot like Smosh the Movie or something. I actually wish, and speaking of Smosh the Movie, they got Alex Winter to direct this, like somebody who's weird, because this SpongeBob is inherently a weird character. I mean, he's like a talking sponge with square pants. That's a strange idea. And like, I wish they got someone who could mess with and have fun with it. And I feel like what I liked about the original movie and what I liked about SpongeBob overall, and like when it started was the perceived how it's ripping off Spumco thing and stuff, is it felt strange and weird. And these movies feel like if you took all of the interesting, strange weirdness out of SpongeBob and just continued like how marketable he is and mainstream and like cleaned it up and made it look boring, and that's sort of like what this movie continues. Yeah, I mean, I like Wanda Sykes, particularly from the other two. She doesn't do anything as good here, but I feel like she kind of like plays into the campiness. Her assistants, whose name I keep forgetting, I thought they were good, trying to do what they could with it, but they feel like they're very much playing in a kids movie, which I think like it's one thing to play an ironic kind of silly thing, but they're not doing that. It very much feels like Wanda Sykes is being Wanda Sykes, but everyone else is sort of like slumming, like they're playing in a kid's film. I thought the whole premise was just sort of dumb, not weird dumb, just dumb. I don't mind them going on a road trip, but I mean, they just did that in the, like, haven't three of these movies, I don't watch the sequels that ever. The third one I saw more than once, but the other one I thought was dumb. And this is also like, they don't really capture I get that SpongeBob is very profitable and very popular, and like almost everybody likes SpongeBob, but I don't think these movies capture that appeal the same way. I think the first movie did, but I feel like the rest don't. And even the first movie feels like what, I grew up reading comic books, and like the idea of like, I feel like a lot of TV shows, when they get a movie, it feels like what we used to call annuals, which were these things that came out every year, like X-Men, Spider-Man would have them, and they never felt essential. They usually were thicker, and they never had much to do with the ongoing storyline, and if you never read them, you'd be fine. Sometimes they do a cool thing, but for the most part they didn't. And that's how I kind of feel about these. Like, it doesn't. I think the movie crosses over the first one maybe or something. I forget. But like these, maybe they do. I could care less, to be honest with you. I think like I want a traditionally animated SpongeBob movie. I don't like the CG stuff. But my expectations were so low. I had a fun time. Hearing kids laugh at SpongeBob is a glorious thing. My kids liked it a lot. They laughed a lot at more of the characters in Bikini Bottom than anything else. They were like really drawn to it. I think it's a decent enough kids film. It's not a spectacular one. There's nothing truly unique about it in any sense of the word. And it honestly feels like being a Sandy Cheeks movie because SpongeBob is there the entire time. Like, it feels like they didn't commit to like, why have these side character things. Like, I truly cannot figure the fuck out what's going on here. It really feels like a truly bizarre idea. Like, why would you want like a Sandy Cheeks movie but then SpongeBob's in it? It's like, well, isn't this just a SpongeBob movie? Like, I don't really get it. Like, I didn't understand. Like, do you feel like, oh, she doesn't have the pull to be a character throughout her whole movie? Which then begs the question, why is there a Sandy Cheeks movie then if you felt like you needed to rely on SpongeBob? So like the whole premise of this doesn't make any sense. I like Johnny Knoxville in it, actually. I was fine with the family stuff, and my kids liked it when SpongeBob would drink the water on the plane and loses, be dried out and stuff. It was a fine kids movie. I honestly don't think, it's like, what was that movie, The Willoughbys on Netflix? Like, nobody remembers that. This is like one of those where like we watched it was a fun night, we had good. I'm sure I would bring it up. Even my kids would be like, oh yeah, but they're not going to request it. It was a fun enough time. If you're seeing it with your family or whatever, you'll have a good night, but you're not going to remember it. And it's not well made enough. And there's nothing that truly sticks out other than the opening. Because when I rewatched it, I was like, the opening where they're all running and they're doing gags and stuff, that's really funny. I wish the whole movie had been that. But the fact that it's not done with traditional animation like SpongeBob is and known for, the way it's like sort of, you can tell it's somebody out of their depth director wise. I'm just throwing out Alex Winter. I would go for like even a Joe Dante, somebody who could do something like more interesting and like a little more fascinating. And this just felt like a corporate yes man TV director made it, and there's the lighting wasn't particularly interesting. It just had no real style to it, and I think SpongeBob deserves maybe a better big screen treatment. As we go through these, this honestly just feels like yet another SpongeBob movie. And I know I defended Kung Fu Panda 4 and was like, I'm fine with just having another adventure, but if it's another adventure, like, we already did a road trip thing a couple times, we've already done the live action animation thing, we've already done a lot of these things. What is exactly your point with this? And I guess their point is to just have a fun SpongeBob movie, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's all you need from a movie, is just a fun night, some kids laugh, everybody goes to bed, and in a week you're sort of like, oh yeah, we watched that. And that's as far, I think, and as ambitious as this movie ever tries to be. But I think SpongeBob is a better character than to have its fourth sort of spin-off movie or whatever it is be of this quality. I think if we're going to continue to make SpongeBob movies, we should maybe aim a little higher than to just have like, oh cool, another one. It feels like SpongeBob should have a better reputation for this film series that keeps going on, or have better quality. But unfortunately, we have sort of just a fine, decent enough movie, and I think SpongeBob deserves more than just a fine, decent enough thing. He's one of the best animated characters of all time, and he deserves a movie that lives up to that. It's nice to watch it fail if you're at least gonna have a decent enough time watching it keep falling on its face, sequel after sequel after this spinoff. So if you have seen Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like.